This is the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wyatt. And on today's show, Andy Gipson, the Commissioner of the Department of Agriculture and Commerce.
This episode of the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast is brought to you by the Foundation for Mississippi Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks.
You're listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wyatt. Now listen, if you've ever pumped gas in the state of Mississippi, and while you stood there, you looked at the gas pump and you saw the name Andy Gipson, and you thought, why is this guy's name on the gas pump? Well, he's here today, and we're going to find out why, the answer to that question and others. Andy Gipson, the Commissioner of the Department of Ag and Commerce here in Mississippi. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I appreciate y'all's show. I love the podcast, and I'm honored to be with you today.
Yeah, so yourself, you pump gas, you see your name on the gas pump. How's that feel?
Every time now I pump gas, I look and find out which month they were there checking that pump. We do it at least once a year. Our folks are out there on the road checking them for quality and quantity, both gasoline and diesel fuel, and that's just one of the many things that we do at your Department of Agriculture and Commerce. People may not know all the different things we do. Of course, we are here to support and promote agriculture, our largest industry, but also the commerce side that includes petroleum and a whole lot more.
Well, that's saying it right there. Something that Chip and I were discussing before the show was, this big, broad umbrella that's called ag and commerce, and all those things that fall under that umbrella for you and your folks that a lot of people listening may not realize. Everything from the big things you talk about to the state fair to the Genuine Mississippi program. Like, there's a lot going on.
We have a lot going on, and we are a relatively small agency. I think we have about 218 employees across the state. Most of our folks work out of their vehicle. They're on the road working every day, checking those gas pumps, checking grocery stores and get scanners in the grocery stores. Everything weighed in commerce. Our folks test those scales every year. So that's the regulatory side of what we do. We also are in charge of looking over all the seed that are sold in the state of Mississippi. We have an office on the campus of Mississippi State University and a worldwide known seed lab. We're for our expertise in that work. Feed, fertilizer, soil amendment program up there at the Bureau of Plant Industry. We have, as you mentioned, the state fairgrounds that we're in charge of, and we are proud to be supporting our state fair and also the Dixie National Rodeo and Livestock Show when it comes to town. And then, everything that we do is about supporting our products, agricultural products. So we have the Genuine Mississippi program that promotes everything grown, raised, crafted, and made right here in the Magnolia State, and we're proud to do that. We have a lot of great people, a lot of great folks that work for the Department of Ag, but what brings us together is promoting Mississippi. And I'm proud to be in Mississippi. And one last thing that we get to do is international trade. 1 out of every 3 acres of our production of our products in this state, 1 out of every 3 acres is destined for international markets. And I just got back from India promoting Mississippi blueberries and pecans and chicken and soybeans over there in the world's largest country, India, 1.4 billion people. And you know what? It's illegal for anybody over there to even own a gun. How about that? Except and they don't hunt. They don't know anything about hunting because they just have never had that right, that freedom. And so I was so thankful to be back in America. The first thing I looked for was a piece of beef. I said, I don't care what it is, hamburger or what. Wound up getting a 6-ounce sirloin steak from TGI Fridays, and it was the best piece of meat I ever had. I had enough curry to last me a while when I was in India. So we're promoting Mississippi. We're promoting our products and then making sure that commerce flows through all the different regulatory aspects of the operations for the state. So it's an honor to serve the people of Mississippi.
Well, and promoting Mississippi, it comes natural to you, right?
Yeah.
Because your love for the outdoors, for agriculture in this state and our people goes way back. You're a lifelong Mississippian.
Right.
You didn't just wake up as the Commissioner of Ag and Commerce. Yeah. Where did all this start for you? Take me back to your childhood and kind of tell me your story.
Well, it's an honor to do that. I grew up in rural Rankin County on a small farm. We also had a family farm back in Simpson County, and we normally went there about every weekend. My dad was a home builder as well as a part-time pastor, and my mom was our homemaker. She was the heartbeat of our home. Had 2 brothers, my older brother Scott, my younger brother Matt, and we grew up I mean, our extracurricular activities included hunting and fishing, and that's it. We really focused our time as we grew up. A lot of my early memories going squirrel hunting with my dad, going coon hunting, and even riding horses in the middle of the night, coon hunting, and with my brothers. And my older brother, as he got a little older, he began to raise bird dogs, English setters, and so we hunted birds. We had quail more than we do now, but I'm glad to see they're making a comeback in some places thanks to a lot of habitat improvements. But of course, deer hunting always, and fishing. When it was summer, when it was spring and summer, we had a camp at Eagle Lake, and then later on we did a lot of fishing at Lake Chotard, before the invasive carp got in Chotard and the Mississippi River. I can remember those days, and I went back a few years later, and I was shocked at all these fish jumping out of the water. Seemed like they were aiming for my head, you know. Then another thing we did on the Gulf Coast, I grew up going out fishing for, several days at a time out at Lake Chandelier Island and Freemason Island. We do a lot of speckled trout fishing out there. Just the great outdoors of Mississippi, every aspect of it, hunting and fishing, freshwater, saltwater, all the above. It's what we did growing up, and I guess that's where I got my passion for the outdoors, and also growing up on the farm, realizing that those two things go together. Agriculture, our farmers are our original conservationists, and so it's so important on our private farmlands in the state that we have good practices to keep our habitat the best it can be, and we can always make improvements with that. So seeing all of that together gave me a passion and love for this state, and of course we got the best people anywhere, and I would say the best cooking anywhere in the world, especially after coming back from India for 2 weeks. But I'm thankful to be here, thankful to be representing Mississippi and supporting our products and programs all around the world and right here in our own backyard. Yeah.
I've always heard and been under the impression that, the favorite child is either the youngest or the oldest, but it's seldom the one in the middle.
Yeah.
Yes, no?
I don't have a complex about that. It just seemed like, being the middle child is just no big deal. You just do whatever comes. You roll with the flow, and you move on and get the job done. So I would get the jobs that some of the others might get out of because they were too little or because they didn't grown on, and that's just part of it. And I don't hold that against anybody. My brothers and I still get together. My older brother is in Texas now. He's a doctor out there in Texas. He's got a ranch, and we go out there and hunt on his place. He'll come back home here. We'll go squirrel hunting around Christmas time, and or go deer hunting here. And it's family time is what it's about. Those memories, as I think about it, I'm sitting here thinking about growing up. Really the fondest memories I have are our family together at the lake, in the woods, growing up and enjoying everything Mississippi has to offer.
Yeah. So if we go back, let's say it's early, mid-'80s, and 9-10-year-old Andy, and he's given the choice. Mm-hmm. Let's say it's in the fall. We can either go squirrel hunting or we can go fishing. I'm trying to figure out what you were like as a kid. Which one of those would you have chosen?
Well, for me, because it was easier for me to go squirrel hunting because I told you we'd go to the family farm every weekend. As I got to be that age, we had a herd of cattle, and one of my jobs was to go down there as a teenager and to feed them every day and check on them. And we had a scope of woods back there, so I would, as soon as I can get in the woods, that's what I would do. And but I love to fish so much, and we to this day we won't pass up an opportunity to do one or the other. My brother's coming to town over Memorial. He's come to town over Memorial Day weekend, and we're going to have a fishing trip together. So it's always something fun to do when it's like you plan your life around the calendar, all the seasons, and you can't go wrong with that. You don't get in trouble being outside enjoying God's creation.
Sure. Yeah. As you grew up, and education sort of takes the forefront. Seems like the older you get. Of course, you went to MC. How did you? When I look at your career path and where you are now, that little kid, what was that in between, and how you got to the point of where you're commissioner at Ag and Commerce?
Well, we had cleared some land on our farm and started raising cows. And when I graduated high school, my dream was to move to the farm in Simpson County, and I asked my mom and dad if I could go build a cabin there, and they said yes. They said, pick you out a spot. So I picked out a spot halfway in the woods where I squirrel hunted and halfway into pasture, and I had a porch on the back and one on the front, and I lived there all 4 years of my college career and even through law school. And I made the decision because I did not want to leave the farm and didn't want to leave that outdoor life that I would go to college at Mississippi College. I commuted every day to Clinton and home, and tended my cows, tended the stock, and would jump on my horse and ride through the woods, and just a lot of great memories. And I was, of course, single at the time. And then 2 years into my law school career at Mississippi College School of Law, I had met my wife, Leslie, my last year at MC, and we got married 2 years into law school. So with 1 year to go, I convinced her somehow to stay here in Mississippi and to marry me, and we enjoyed our honeymoon in the cabin there on the farm. And a matter of fact, we had our wedding reception on the farm. And so we didn't have to leave and go anywhere. All the guests had to leave. I told them, when the chickens go to roost, y'all all got to leave. And that's exactly, you should have seen it, like tail lights going out into the night. And we got to stay home at what we call the honeymoon cabin. And we lived there together for 3 years. And then as time went on, we began to have a family, and wound up buying another farm just down the road and built our home where we live today. And we have 4 children, all of whom love to hunt and fish: Joseph and Benjamin, Abigail and Sarah. And we're continuing that tradition of keeping them in the woods and on the lake. Yeah.
That's great. And you mentioned to me earlier, one of your sons has avid outdoorsman and has gotten into the native grasses and native flowers on the property.
That's right.
As a way to facilitate, the growth of wildlife on the property.
It worked out just for him. We cleared a large tract of land on our farm, cut all the pine trees out of it, left some hardwoods there. And my son Benjamin said, "Dad, I'd like to try something." I said, "What?" He said, "I've been reading." He's been reading some of your publications here, Mississippi Outdoors, how to improve habitat for the deer, for the turkey, for the quail. And I said, "Okay, what do we need to do?" And he gave me this long list of things and seed that we needed to order and plant. And so we have, I have enjoyed just helping him achieve that vision, but he's had tremendous success in attracting in more deer with this native grass and forbs, as he calls them. They're that's a fancy word for flowers for the quail. And we hear quail calling on our farm for the first time in a long, long time now. We have had some success there too. And of course, turkey. He gets fanatical about turkey season when it comes. It just wrapped it up. But, a good example of, we had just a tract of pine timber that had basically nothing for anything to eat. And now it's been transformed into this magnet for wildlife. Through some common sense practices and really just planting some stuff that has always grown naturally in Mississippi for years and years. And, of course, we still do deer plots and stuff like that, but this is something that's throughout the year. It's a management program that he's put in place, and I'm proud of Ben for his work on that. Yeah.
You keep hearing that Bob White out in the distance there. Your brother may show up again with a bird dog.
That's right. He brought one Christmas before last. He sure did, and we had a little success. But I told him we didn't want to pressure him too much. We're trying to get him to come back. Sure. But it's just an example and something that I really, everywhere I get to go speak all across Mississippi, the fact that farming and conservation really do go hand in hand. They're not mutually exclusive. They can be done together successfully, and I think that's one of the reasons why we have such a great state. And when it comes to wildlife, is we have, of course, agriculture is our number one industry. That's our biggest part of our economy. With a lot of agriculture and forestry, so a lot of opportunities for improving habitat in the great state of Mississippi.
You just said farming and conservation go hand in hand. Yeah. So that's sort of a good lead in to describe the relationship between ag and commerce and Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, obviously, and why you work so closely together.
Absolutely. We when I became commissioner, I knew that one of the things I wanted to accomplish was to have a stronger connection between our two agencies, because everything we do on the farm, affects conservation and vice versa. And I think to the extent we get to work together and not only educate farmers on better practices, but also help them to do some things like trapping wild hogs. I got in office in 2018, April 2nd, 2018. One of the first meetings I had was I called in some of my staff and said, what are we doing about these wild hogs? I've seen the devastation. They do $65 million worth of damage to crops every year in Mississippi. And from that conversation, we were able to launch the nation's first State Department of Agriculture-led wild hog control program on private agricultural and forestry lands. And again, not only doing beneficial things on farms, but helping to fight the invasive species such as the wild hogs that have really become what I call the locust, a modern-day locust. They are destroyers of habitat. They are destroyers of crops, and there's really no good that they bring to the table. They're non-native, invasive, disease-ridden critters, and we trap everyone. We help farmers trap everyone that we can, and we're proud to be working. And I know y'all do a lot of work in that regard on public lands, and so we're complementing each other's work that way.
Yeah. What are some of the things involved with some of the specifics of how a landowner, a farmer can get help in trying to at least put a dent in that wild hog population that's causing all that damage on their property?
Well, the first thing is to document where they are. And we tell our folks, our farmers, you need to pay attention to where they are. Most of the time, these hogs are running in the creek bottoms. They're staying down in the lowlands. They'll come out and just swarm out into a field and destroy. When corn's planted, for example, they'll go down the rows and eat every seed of the farmer's corn. And other times of the years, they're in there destroying the harvest. But document where they are and work with your local your neighbors to make sure that they're aware of this issue and make sure you know what the problem is. And then what we do through the Wild Hog Control Program, you can Google that on our webpage at mdac.ms.gov/WHCP. That's the website there. We open up periodic trapping opportunities, and we encourage landowners to get large tracts of land because these hogs move so much. You've got to be able to put the traps where they are. Obtain photographic evidence of those hogs coming, and then we'll deliver the trap. Our folks will actually deliver the trap. We'll teach the farmers how to use it. They can use a smart trap that ties to a cell phone where you can drop the trap on them, or these net traps where the hogs just push in but they can't get out. So we train them on that, and also just being aware of the hogs in your general vicinity and don't get caught off guard. They're going to appear. When we had the floods, we had all those Yazoo backwater floods a few years ago, and hogs that had always been in the South Delta wound up coming in unexpectedly to Hinds County, and I began getting calls. They're moving all the time. They have the ability to move large distances and to come out of nowhere. So stay aware. Don't let them get a foothold, and keep on trapping them. Those I call them sorry, good for nothing, feral wild hogs.
Yeah, on your property, your land, y'all deal with them in that part of the state too.
I have some neighbors who have killed and have trapped a few. On my particular piece of property, they have not. Now, my land is high. It's relatively high, so I know they're around. My neighbor sent me a picture not long ago, big old hog hanging off of his tractor bucket, and I said, man, I would have had no idea they were down in that bottom, but they are. So they're documented in all 82 counties. I said they do $65 million worth of damage, not only to crops but other infrastructure. They rooted out a road down in South Mississippi. Somebody sent me a picture of another bunch of hogs got under a woman's house and rooted her foundation loose under her front porch. Devastating to our habitat, to of course deer and turkey populations. So we got to stay ahead of this, and there are some tools that are being studied. Articles came out not long ago on possible pesticide toxicant But we are years and perhaps even decade out from that being approved. All those types of products have to be approved by guess who? The Federal Environmental Protection Agency. And that process is a long process. So we can't wait around for something like that. We gotta keep acting today.
You were talking about the relationship between ag and commerce and MDWFP. There was a name that you and Scooter had in common. Y'all were talking earlier, Chris McDonald, who was here at MDWFP for a lot of years.
That's right.
Now he's with you in your department.
That's right. Chris is a great guy. He's actually running our wild hog control program now. He's both a wildlife biologist and an agricultural specialist, so he's got a unique perspective on that. Chris does a lot of other things. He works with the federal agencies like USDA and their conservation components, and so he's a perfect fit for administering this wild hog control program, and we're proud of that. We're proud of the work Chris has done and our folks have done, and actually Congress has noticed what we're doing, and we're hoping that this will become a pilot program for other states across America, because it's not just a Mississippi problem. As you know, it's all over the Southeast. Those hogs are in Texas in a bad kind of way, all over America, and we need a united front as we battle them.
Yeah.
We're never going to eliminate them. We can only manage their populations. I'm afraid, unless something dramatic changes. Somebody told me that Mississippi State, if a bomb went off and killed 70% of the wild hogs today, some way or another, in 1 year's time, they would be back in full force. That's how quickly they proliferate. So it's a constant battle, and it's not here one at a time. And we got to be mass trapping them and other management techniques.
Good night.
Yeah.
It's almost, you hate to be negative. You want to see a positive outlook, but it's almost like, numbers like that, an everyday hunter, farmer looks at it and goes, well, what chance do we have long term? I guess you got no choice but to fight it.
We can fight it today. The folks at Mississippi State have been doing a lot of great research. We funded a research project through our Land, Water, and Timber Resources Board to track, to study the traveling of these hogs, their mannerisms and where they go. And then from that, Mississippi State has been studying different types of chemicals, sterilization chemicals. I won't get into all that. I don't want to disclose something I'm not supposed to, but there's a lot of research going on right now. Mm-hmm. But it's not something that's going to happen overnight.
Sure.
Don't read an article like somebody did the other day. I saw that some university discovered this, and it's going to be the answer. Well, it may be part of the answer, but again, EPA has got their thumb on every chemical, every pesticide, everything like this. So it's going to take years and years of that to get approved. This is the same EPA right now that's trying to ban rat poison, okay? Yeah. I'm not making this stuff up. I have to work with these people. I used to work with them. Now I'm always fighting them because they're trying to. I told them one thing: we will never, ever stop waging war against rats in the state of Mississippi. I don't care what y'all do in Washington, D.C. We're going to keep killing the rats down here. But you have some radical environmental people who are at the helm of some of these federal agencies, and they don't want any chemicals. They don't want any toxicants. So you've got to be aware of that. It's a long slog. We got to do what we can do, and the trapping seems to be proven to be the most effective way to go, and that's what we recommend for farmers or for outdoorsmen who are out there.
As I've followed your career as a commissioner, so I guess just over 6 years now, just 6 years into
going into 7 years. It's hard to believe.
Into the seventh year. Common sense, when I've seen and heard some of the arguments over the years and some of the issues, whether it's, as you mentioned, like, rat poison or the meatless meat issue, fake meat. Those kind. Common sense is really. Would you say it's fair that I say that's what I see as kind of the approach? Let's approach this from a common sense perspective.
That is my philosophy. I have always tried to be a practical person. I got that from my mom and dad. They raised me. We had a problem on the farm. We'd find a way to fix it. I cannot stand bureaucrats and politicians who talk about stuff for 5, 10, 20 years. Why talk about it when you can do something about it? And so I believe in getting things done. I believe in taking a common sense approach, doing something that's going to be the best for the situation with all the facts that you have. You may need to get some more facts, but don't talk something to death, because that's what I see. I was in the legislature for almost 12 years, and I saw that happen time and time again. People talking, and I became convinced some politicians, that's all they want to do is see or hear themselves talking, and I'd rather just solve the problem and move on to the next thing. That's my philosophy.
Yeah. For the hunter, the fisherman listening, the outdoorsman, what do you want them to know about what you're doing and what your department is doing that ultimately helps them as well?
Well, we want everyone to know that we see agriculture and we see conservation as being true partners and not enemies, not adversaries. We saw this issue over in I mentioned the flooding in the Yazoo pumps region, the Yazoo Delta, trying to finish the pumps over there. There were some outside groups that came in here that tried to, speak against common sense pumps that would keep the floods from being so devastating. They were talking about that in a way that they were saying it would protect the wildlife. But what we saw was when the floods came, the wildlife died too. The deer were starving to death on those levees over there. And so that's one example, but an important example that farmers, our farmers are out there every day planting the food that we need to survive, food, fiber, and shelter. And these same farmers are stewards of the land. We are the original conservationists. I tell people that everywhere. And so the farmers that I know in the state of Mississippi and that I know our listeners know are common sense folks who want to do what's right by the farm, and they also want to do what's right by the wildlife. And I think the two go together so well that as we have better practices in farming techniques, as we use cover crops, for example, all of those things are going to help promote a broader diversity and a better a sustainable wildlife population in the state of Mississippi. And our farmers in Mississippi are fully bought into this. Congress is debating a farm bill right now. That farm bill has so many pieces to it that I won't get into all that, but one of the big pieces is conservation practices on farms, and not only in Mississippi, but nationwide. And our farmers are already engaging a lot of those processes. If you have a piece of land and you're interested in engaging in that, go visit your Farm Service Agency. That is a federal agency. It's not our State Department of Ag, but we do work closely with the FSA and with USDA and to help educate farmers and landowners on better practices. And that's the two go together. We are allies in a common cause, and from producing food and also preserving habitat.
The Genuine Mississippi program, that's something that was started after you came into office there?
That's right. That is our marketing brand. Every state has sort of a locally grown brand, if you will. Ours is the state of Mississippi's Genuine Mississippi program, genuinems.com. If you go to that website, and I encourage everybody to go to genuinems.com, you can find products of every type grown, raised, crafted, and made right here in the Magnolia State. Locally owned businesses that have products, local farmers that have products. People want to buy local now more than ever before. I'll give you one example. We had a few years ago, we just had 40-something farmers markets that were local Mississippi-raised farmers markets. Today we have over 100. So there is a growing grassroots interest in local food, local products. And our answer to that is Genuine Mississippi, which is the official state brand for our great state. And we want to put that brand on everything good and a positive for the state of Mississippi. So that is our program. We've sort of taken that brand and applied it to a lot of different things. But the Genuine Mississippi chicken is our number one product. Chicken is our number one product as a state. Right behind that, it may vary year to year, but it's soybeans, cotton, corn, beef, cattle, and then all the way down to small specialty crops that you might not think about, like blueberries and pecans. When I was in India, they were wanting to talk about buying blueberries and pecans. It interested me. I went out to my blueberry patch and harvested a handful of fresh blueberries yesterday. The first bunch are coming in. I love them fresh. Sometimes you can buy them in a grocery store in the cool section. In India, they dry them like raisins.
Really?
And they want to eat blueberries like that. I said, that's interesting. They'll keep longer that way. But blueberries, another genuine Mississippi product, pecans, sweet potatoes. And Mississippi is number one for catfish. U.S. farm-raised catfish, we are the ones who invented it, and we're still number one in the great catfish industry. So we have so many great things as a state to promote. Why not promote them? And I love to go on these market development trips, and I tell people, if it's worth growing, if it's worth raising, we do it in Mississippi, and we do it better than anybody else. And that's an unequivocal fact. We can back it up. We are a leader when it comes to agriculture and ag products.
So if it's got that genuine Mississippi logo on the packaging, then it's just like you. It's born, raised, and made right here in Mississippi.
That's right. And there are 4 categories. When you see that logo, genuine MS, it's a really unmistakable logo. I hope y'all can put it on the screen for them. But you know that it's either grown here. It could be a grown product like our fruits and vegetables. It could be raised like our livestock. It could be a crafted product such as, let's take a pecan pie as an example. My favorite pie is something that some artisan has taken and created a crafted product, pecan pie, or some other crafted product like a cotton linens or something like that. And made is manufactured. That's the 4th category. So grown, raised, crafted, and made, and you can look at that website. You can shop from that website. Go visit our local producers. When we buy local, we're not only supporting what we need as a family and for our families, but we're supporting our local communities. So my argument is the best investment we can make when we're shopping is to buy local, buy genuine Mississippi.
Andy, I really do appreciate you coming and giving us some time. And the next time you come back, I'm going to get me a cowboy hat.
Well, I want to say thank you for having me, and I may give you one when I come back. How about that?
That'd be great.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. Really appreciate you. Yeah. That's Commissioner Andy Gipson, Department of Ag and Commerce, here on the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. We thank you for listening, and we'll see you outdoors.